Hi, and welcome back to this Wednesday edition, free-for-all Wednesday edition of Focal Point on AFR Talk, 888-589-8840. Just want to close the loop on this healthcare debacle. And again, this cannot be allowed to stand, ladies and gentlemen. This is lawless. It is unconstitutional. What Barack Obama has done, he's acting as if he is a king. He's acting as if the law is whatever he decides it is. It cannot be allowed to stand. Steve King, the only one, representative from Iowa, the only one I've heard coming out and saying, look, he wants to change the law. He's got to come to Congress first. Who else is saying that? Where are the Republicans on this? And they ought to be perfectly willing to work with Obama to do something about this law, repeal it. I mean, my feeling is either the Republicans ought to make President Obama choke on his own piece of legislation, or he ought to be compelled to sign a complete repeal, either or. The other thing the House can do is they can simply make a decision to defund Obamacare. Every spending bill's got to originate in the House, just appropriate no money to implement any part of Obamacare, and it can't get off the tarmac. So, but he cannot be allowed to get away with this. The Republicans cannot allow this to pass without a challenge, or we will have ceased to be a constitutional republic. We'll be a banana republic, run like Zambezi or someplace like that. So obviously President Obama says, look, this thing's a total train wreck, just as Max Baca said. It's going to be a catastrophe for the Democrats in 2014. It'll be 10 months on the road. It's going to be absolute chaos. The exchanges are not going to be ready by October 1. Nobody's going to know what to do. Nobody's going to know where to go. Nobody's going to know where to go to get questions answered. It's just going to be absolute total chaos. He's beginning to realize that, trying to save his bacon in 2014. Didn't lift the individual mandate, so that's not fair to individuals. Now they're going to get dumped by their employers because their employers don't have to offer them insurance in 2014, so they're going to get dumped into the exchange. It's going to cost them way more. I mean, we've had story after story after story about what's going to happen to premiums in the individual market. They're going to go through the ceiling. They're going to go up anywhere from 64 to 200%. Every study indicates that. So you're going to have these people working for a company right now. They've got health insurance. The company's going to say, look, I don't have to provide insurance for my employers next year. We're going to take a year out, no health insurance through our company. They're going to be bumped into the individual exchange or individual market where they now have to pay out of pocket for their health insurance. It's going to cost 2 or 3 times what it was costing them before. As I mentioned, it doesn't give the waiver to individuals, doesn't give the waiver to Christian-run businesses. And what this means, and here's what I want to get to before we go back to the phones. But King Barack the lawless right now is restrained only by what he thinks he can get away with. He's not restrained by the law. He is not restrained by the Constitution. He is restrained only by what he thinks he can get away with. And don't forget that Antonin Scalia said the same thing about the Supreme Court in the wake of their DOMA and Prop 8 rulings, where Anthony Kennedy didn't base his ruling on the law. He didn't base it on history, didn't base it on tradition, didn't base it on precedent, didn't base it on the Constitution. He based it on his assessment that you and I are a bunch of Cro-Magnon Neanderthal bigots. That was the basis for his ruling. And so Antonin Scalia said correctly that now the Supreme Court is restrained and constrained only by what it thinks it can get away with. It's not restrained by the law, not restrained by the Constitution. Now you got the same thing going on with Harry Reid in the Senate. Harry Reid and the Senate, controlled by liberals, they are restrained only by what they think they can get away with. So right now we've got 3 branches of government. Here's what I want to get to, ladies and gentlemen. Leave you with this thought. We have 3 branches of government. 2.5 of the 3 branches of government, the executive branch, the judicial branch, and the Senate, 2.5 of the 3 branches of our government are now in the hands of people who are lawless, they are immoral, and they are godless. And our republic, our Republican form of government, the Constitution itself, is hanging by one single strand, one thread, and that is conservatives in the House of Representatives. They are the last link between the American people and any shred of constitutional form of government. And if they collapse, like if they cave in on immigration, they go for amnesty, then that thread is going to snap, and we will be plunging at warp speed into the abyss. Quick soundbite before we go to the phones. Clip number 3. This is John Harwood from CNBC, and he realizes the nakedly political nature of what Barack Obama is all about. We got clip 3. Okay, let's roll. Clip 3.
The administration, in part, I think, hopes to get some benefit from delaying these penalties until after the 2014 elections. They've been getting a lot of incoming from Republicans. On the flip side, so that's a positive for Democrats. On the positive for Republicans, they're going to use this decision as evidence that the administration itself doesn't have confidence in the law and try to push harder against some of the things that they can affect. John Boehner put out a statement tonight saying this law is a train wreck, and the Obama administration just said so.
So, and he's exactly right. So he's admitting, look, this is nakedly political on Obama's part, and the Republicans rightly are going to beat him about the head and shoulders. But it's not enough just to beat him about the head and shoulders here on this. You have got to stop this. This cannot be allowed to stand. Now, here's an example of what Obama's up against. Clip number 4. Here's a Houston doctor who, because of Obamacare, he's getting out of the practice of medicine altogether. Let's listen.
I went into medicine to make a difference in people's lives.
But Dr. Robert McWilliams says he's going broke.
I haven't paid myself a salary since October 2010. It's the last time I took a dime home from my 40-year practice. It's going to be run by bureaucrats, and it's going to be run by politicians who have no idea what is in your best interest. Then I'm getting out. It's going to hurt me, but it's going to hurt the patients more. And the patients need to realize that.
So doctor after doctor, you're hearing this all over the fruited plain. They're going into retirement. They're getting out of medicine altogether. It's not what it used to be. It's not what they went into medicine for. Got a lot of stories about doctors going to cash only. They're getting out of insurance altogether. They reduced their patient load to about 500 instead of 5,000 a year. The patients might pay $50 a month for the privilege of seeing him, getting a face-to-face appointment on short notice, same day. They pay cash, no insurance to process. A lot of doctors are going that route. And then here is Charles Krauthammer, clip 5, talking about the way Obamacare is designed to work is to transfer money from young, healthy patients who don't need to pay $5,500 a year for insurance. They're paying $800 a year right now. Under Obamacare, they're going to be obligated to pay $5,500 a year. They don't need to pay that kind of money. Why does Obama make them pay it? So that senior citizens can get their health care needs made. It's a massive transfer of wealth from young workers to old workers. This is Krauthammer, clip 5.
Cynicism is always the right assumption when dealing with this administration. I think Senator Barrasso is exactly right. The dates aren't accidental, and I would say, Juan, that the one person who called it a train wreck, Obamacare, was not a Republican. He was the Democratic senator's head of the Budget Committee, Max Baucus, who knows of which he speaks. Look, what in the end the bill is, it's a massive transfer of wealth from the young to the old. Young people are going to be paying double and triple what would ordinarily be paying in health insurance if the premium were linked to the risk, which is the way it's been for the last 600 years in insurance. But it's not. It's linked to what Nancy Pelosi and Harry Reid agreed upon as the risk ratio. So they're going to be doubling and tripling. And that's the effect there. The free lunch part of this affair is now over.
So that's Charles Krauthammer, good analysis of what's going on with the Obamacare bill. Let's go to the phones. Let's go to Floyd in Louisiana. Floyd, thank you for calling and thank you for waiting. What's on your mind?
Yes, sir. I'm looking at the oath of office, and I think that's the clincher right there.
All right.
That's where we got them, because it says it all right there. They took an office to discharge the office duties faithfully, and they swore to God to do it.
Yep.
So, I mean, just look at the oath of office, and it says it all.
Yeah, and I'm trying to find have you got the oath of office right in front of you?
Yeah, I sure do.
Okay, read the oath of office that the president has to take before he enters office.
Okay, I got a pocket Declaration of Independence and Constitution. On the top it says, I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will and faithfully discharge the duties of the office on which I am about to enter. Help me God.
You know, and specifically, I'm looking at the specific oath that is for the president.
That's a different one.
Yeah, it's a slightly different one, but the same thing. I do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. Well, he's not doing that because the Constitution says Congress makes the law. Your job's to implement them. Your job is not to undo them. You can't veto them after you've signed it into law. It doesn't work that way. So.
Okay, California, the Attorney General, and the Governor, they took that office, and, you know, they took an oath. So, I mean, that's where we got them.
Yeah, and, you know, somewhere in here it says that they have a responsibility to see that the laws are faithfully executed. I don't know where that is. I've got to find that, but that is part of their responsibility to see that the laws are faithfully executed. All right, Floyd, listen, I appreciate that. Very good. And that's the point here. You know, Floyd's making the point, look, if we go by the Constitution, then this can't be allowed to stand. Well, let's grab a quick call from Bruce in St. Pete, Florida. Bruce, welcome to Focal Point. What's on your mind?
Okay, two things.
Yes, sir.
I think that because we've aborted more babies than the population of Canada, our immigration problem is our punishment, because if you had not aborted all those babies, we'd have had a lot less room for other people in the first place.
Yeah, that's
Then
exactly
we
right.
wouldn't have those problems.
Hey, Bruce, would it be possible for you to stay over the break?
Absolutely.
Because I know you have something else you want to get into, and I want to give you time to talk about that. But, you know, what Bruce is saying is exactly right, and this is how Europe got into trouble. Because their fertility rate is so low, they're just not reproducing, then they had to import workers. And the workers they imported have come from Muslim countries, and now they've got this huge cultural problem that they don't know what to do. They don't know how to deal with it now. And we're in a similar situation where the whole argument for immigration, we got to get workers, we got to get workers, we got to get workers. Why? Because native-born Americans simply are not reproducing at rates fast enough to increase the population. So we know what we need to do. Let's get busy. Focal Point AF for Talk. We'll be right back with Bruce and more after these brief messages.